Hi everyone, it's Ramon again, and I'm here to talk a little bit about my drum programming for the Kronos Quartet. And kind of early on in this project, I gave a demo of some material to David Harrington and asked them for some feedback. And uh, basically, it was probably 4 or 5 minutes of sort of preliminary ideas. One component was this drum machine. And part of it is I just wanted to have this kind of rhythmic thing in the background that was helping drive the music forward, but it was just too generic. And so, I asked for his advice, and he suggested that I use Kronos samples to build a drum machine, and I thought this was a brilliant idea. So let me move over to my file manager here. I received a number of files that included just some samples or long recordings that could eventually become samples of the Kronos Quartet, and there's some pretty standard things in the folders that they gave me. Some of them were just long tones, some of them are short tones, pizzicato, different bow techniques, and things like that. But one of the folders contained just some special effects. And within those special effects, I was able to put together a number of different sounds. So as you can see here, I've got them just in alphabetical order. And what I tried to do is describe the sound. For instance, I felt like this particular sample sounded like a bell. Not exactly, but something close to it. I had a couple that were good candidates for bass. Okay, so here's one that could be a bass. One more time. You'll notice that there's kind of a high-pitched sound in it, and so one of the ways that I managed to make the sound more like a bass is to filter out some of the high frequencies. So I just got rid of that higher pitch. Same thing with bass 2. Okay, slightly lower frequency on top of the bass sound. Here's bass 3. Had a little snappier sound to it. Some of them are special effects. For instance, the ascent. It's just a quick rising tone. The batuto, which is the wood of the bow. Bouncing the bow. Okay. Here's what I called blip. Chirp. Give you kind of a general sampling of these. Here's what I called chop. And you'll notice the names of the files are not consistent with a drum machine. It's not bass and snare and hi-hat and cymbals and things like that. And I felt like it wasn't really necessary to do that. I was basically just looking for percussive sounds, and I tried to describe them as best as I could, so that when I went to the drum machine, I could make some sense of it. Here's crack. Here's deep bass, which was a great candidate for a bass drum, or at least reinforcement for a bass drum. Here's what I called gallop. We've got some glissandos here, which are not really that percussive, but they're nice special effects, and it seemed like a good thing to include with some of these drum machine patches. Glitchy, I thought these were kind of all similar in sound. What else we got here? Grind. I wasn't so sure about some of these when I actually got to the drum machine, so that was grind 1. Here's grind 2. You'll notice that there's an actual decay to it, whereas grind 1 just kind of stops at the end. And so even though I gave these all similar names and I tried to categorize them together, once I actually got to the drum machine, I started to filter out some of them on my own. And so you'll notice some of them are not being represented in the actual drum machine itself. Some of them are also very similar in quality. So take plink. I've got a number of these plinks, and pluck. They're pretty close. And so I did my best to describe them. I didn't do a perfect job, but it like I said, it got the job done. What else we have here? Just time for a few more. Slap. Slap, slap. Slip. And snap. Strum. and thuds, which I ended up using as sort of a replacement for the bass from time to time. And that's about it. So there's a lot more to it, but that was at least a starting point. So I'm going to come back over here to Ableton and show you how I set this up. I decided the most appropriate instrument to use was the drum rack. Okay, and so the drum rack is an Ableton instrument, and it's mostly used for creating drum machines. And I feel the potential of this instrument is usually untapped. So you'll notice that all those different names that I just went through, the snap, the pluck, the blip, the grind, the knock, and so on, are all represented here. Okay, you'll notice these different names here. I've got a couple of blank slots here that that I thought I would get to, and I never quite got back to them. But like I said, it's a work in progress, and it's something I'll probably be developing over several years, in fact. We can hear these different sounds. And you can hear that that there's a slightly more complex sound with some of them than just the sounds that I played you in my file browser. All right, so I'm going to show you how to set up the pads the way I have them set up. And one of the things you can do is actually drop an entire sampler onto one of the pads. So I'm gonna use E0 down here, and I just grabbed this from my my instrument browser. Okay, sampler, dropped it down here. Notice it says sampler, and I'm actually let's keep an eye on this right here. Right now it's called sampler. What's really cool about this is we can actually we could set up an entire sampler that has many different samples in it, all on this one pad. Okay, just this one pad down here, which will be played whenever I play E0. You'll notice that get my cursor out of the way. Every time I hit E0, it's trying to play something, but there's nothing to play at the moment. Okay, it's set up to play C3 at the moment, and that's just by default. I'm gonna change this to E0. I don't know. You don't really have to do this, but I feel like it makes me feel better to have the incoming note be E0 and the outgoing note be E0. It's an extra step, actually. It's more work than you really need, but that's okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the zone. Okay, so this is the zone. This is the same as the setting up any sampler in just a regular track, but in this case, it's all on the pad. And I want to drop some audio files in here. So go back over to my file browser. I'm going to grab the bass samples and go back over to Ableton and drop them right here. And you'll notice that I've got these 3 zones. This is the extra step I was talking about. You'll see the little R icon. Let me zoom in there so you can see it a little bit better. The R icon is that's the root. What we want to do is bring all those down to E0, and there it is. Okay, and so now whenever I play E0, we should hear all 3 of those pitches, or all 3 of those samples, sorry.